Welcome to Chapter 9 of your 2024 story. My name is Michelle, owner and founder of Movara Fitness Resort. I am really excited to approach these next few chapters. I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist. I've been in the fitness industry for over 25 years and have a lot of experience with nutrition, and I'm excited to share what we teach at the resort and hopefully simplify nutrition. So, really, this is the topic, the nutrition and the exercise that often people go to first. I love how in the first chapters we addressed goal setting and overcoming changes and also self-love, self-care, because truly that's foundational. And we'll go into the nutrition this month and then hit on the physical fitness and also the mindset as well. But I can't tell you how many times I hear guests talk about the nutrition being the biggest roadblock to their nutrition or to their health and wellness, weight loss goals. We all know that nutrition has a critical role in our health and well-being. In this week's email, you'll get a link to our journal prompt, and then I'm going to go over 6 things that really can affect our nutrition. But the food we choose to put in our bodies has the potential to either nourish or harm us, which is really quite crazy if you think about it. And we all know that. And sometimes we ignore that and we think, oh, it's not going to make that big of a deal. When really a lot of our current diseases in America have to do with sedentary lifestyles, but also the food that we eat. So it's not just about maintaining a healthy weight, which I'm going to talk about and address, because when I get asked the question, or you hear often, how much of weight loss is nutrition and how much is exercise? Oftentimes you hear it's 80% nutrition and 20% exercise. I am going to argue and say when it comes to weight loss, it's 100% what we take into our mouths. It doesn't matter how much we move. You've heard the saying, you can't out exercise your fork. It's absolutely 100% true when it comes to weight loss itself. Now, that's a whole nother topic, and we'll go into that in a few weeks from now. But the nutrition and the food that we eat, again, is not just about maintaining a healthy weight. It's also about ensuring that our bodies have the nutrients. Really, it's the fuel. I'll never forget when we first started, I had a guest really shocked when I used the terminology fuel. I said, well, we need to eat to fuel our bodies. And he thought, wow, I've never really thought of it like that, but they need to function optimally and also help. The food that we eat can help reduce our risk of chronic diseases, which again, I know most of us know that and we overlook that, but our bodies need a variety of nutrients to carry out the countless biological processes that take place that keep us alive and well. And we break it down to vitamins, minerals, complex carbohydrates, proteins, fats. These are all things that we talk about and break down. Our dietitian breaks down for you when you come to the resort, and we talk about the nutrients that can help different processes in our body. They each play a unique and vital, truly vital there's not a better word, the vital role in our body. For instance, proteins are the building blocks of our cells. If we want to build muscle, we need protein to help build muscle. While complex carbohydrates provide us with energy. Our brain functions on carbohydrates. So a diet that's high in processed foods, added sugars, unhealthy fats can lead to a host of health problems, including, as you well know, obesity, heart disease, diabetes, which is really becoming more and more prevalent, and even certain types of cancers. So again, nothing new. We knew this. It's a good reminder. But on the other hand, a diet that is rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats can help to maintain or even lose or reach a healthy weight and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. Truly, nutrition is our medicine. Food is our medicine if we choose it wisely. So making the choice to eat a healthy, balanced diet is one of the most important decisions that we can make for our health. You think about how often we spend time going to the gym or exercising. And truly, if we just spent a little bit more time on our diet, on our nutrition, meal prepping, planning, educating ourselves, it would greatly benefit us. It's not easy, if you didn't know, but it's not easy in today's world that is filled with so many fast food options and lots of processed sugary treats. But I promise you, the time and effort will be worth it. So by making healthier dietary choices, we literally can improve our health, increase our lifespan, not only increase, but improve the quality of our life and enhance, again, the quality of our life. Okay, so we're going to talk about 6 simple tips for nutrition. Now, I emphasize the word simple, and last week we talked about the power of celebrating small, simple victories. And oftentimes we like to make things complicated, and we feel like, okay, it's got to be this big, dramatic change, when really it's the little simple things that are going to give us the biggest benefit that oftentimes, for whatever reason, are the hardest to do. So we're going to talk about these 6 simple steps to better nutrition, and I'm going to break down each one of these things. And I want to just end with our journal prompt, which I love. I think it's so beneficial for us to put pen to paper. I'm going to say that every single week. The power of putting pen to paper and really creating. I love the whole theme of your creating your story that you want to live is going to be powerful. So the first is to eat a variety of foods. This is actually a basic need. So we think about our basic needs of shelter. We all need to live. We need to survive. We need to be loved. We need to feel importance. But a basic need is variety. And everybody's going to be different. The variety can be, from seasonal foods. It can be from, having different varieties throughout your breakfast, your lunch, your dinners. But it's also the variety of foods with fats, carbs, proteins, the different minerals that our body's having needs. And so having, you hear oftentimes referred to as eating the rainbow, having a variety of the colors. So different foods provide different nutrients and benefits. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we talk about a balanced plate and portion control, but it is important to focus on whole foods. So starting just by looking at what your regular diet looks like and deciding how much of those are packaged processed foods and trying to make small, simple steps of reaching for and including whole foods into your diet, such as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains that are packed with lots of nutrients. So I find it very interesting that quite a few of these anti-carbohydrate diets, or you talk about glycemic index, and it like made us, I remember, and I feel like we're getting over this stigma of fruit being like not good for us, which makes me laugh. We had a dietitian once who said, nobody's gotten overweight or unhealthy by eating too many bananas. Yet we're like, you hear like, oh, don't eat bananas. They're going to, spike your blood sugar. But really it's a combination of what we're eating them with and how much we're eating. But if we're not having fruits and we're not having vegetables and we're not having whole grains, we're probably reaching to a lot of processed foods that are going to have a lot of a lot of calories without the nutrients. So that's the second thing. The third, which really goes hand in hand with the second, but is limiting processed foods because they can have a lot of added sugars and unhealthy fats and a unnecessary amount of sodium. Sodium's important for us, and I think it's great that we're recognizing that as opposed to being scared of sodium. We used to be so scared of sodium, but the packaged foods that we have, that's where we get into a problem with unnecessary amounts of sodium. So limiting processed foods as much as possible. The fourth thing is staying hydrated. This is one of the things at the resort that's a big eye opener for a lot of the guests. In fact, we have guests that come and say they've never drank so much water than being at the resort. And it's a really great thing because as you're moving and you're being active, you crave more water as well. But we always recommend taking your body weight in half and shooting for that amount of ounces every day, which can be a struggle for a lot of people. So looking at the amount of water that you currently are consuming and trying to increase that. I do always default to, is your urine clear and not bright yellow? That's going to be your first sign of being hydrated. So that's the fourth step. Again, these are simple things that can make a big, big difference. These last two, however, are, in my opinion, going to be the ones that are going to help you reach your weight loss, maybe your fitness goals as well, because the first four can really help with overall health in general and improve your health and avoid the chronic diseases. These last two steps can help us reach our weight loss, fitness, and health goals. So the fifth step is practicing portion control, which is obviously, right? But we overlook that so much and we make it more complicated, and we try and make it like we need to be eating a specific amount of whatever. And really all we could do is make the simple change of cutting things in half or eliminating a little bit here and a little bit there and looking at our portion sizes. I love, and we've been teaching for years, the portion sizes with your hand. So if we just implemented this simple rule and said, okay, when I eat carbohydrates, one serving size, which is about the amount we should have per meal, 1 to 2 at the most. If you're taller, have more weight, exercising a lot, men have a little bit more room depending on their body size, can get away with maybe 2 portions per meal, but 1 to 2, maybe 1.5 portion size per meal. The size of your fist is the size of your carbohydrates. So your rice, your quinoa, a slice of bread, a thin slice of bread is 1 serving size. So really 1 serving per meal. And again, about 3 meals a day, depending on how many meals you're having. But we at the resort serve and believe in the 3 balanced meals is going to give your body the adequate nutrients it needs. So the carbohydrate is the size of your fist. Your protein size is the size of your palm, not the whole hand, but the size of the palm and the width as well as your hand. So 1 serving per meal. And a lot of times, you look at restaurants or you go out to eat and it will be 2 or 3 servings per meal of protein. So carbohydrates, proteins, the palm. The portion size of fat is your thumbnail. So 1 tablespoon of oil, butter, and that is so easy to have more than 1 to 2 servings per meal. So if you have kind of that rule of, again, 1 serving is probably going to help you lose weight. 2 servings you might be able to maintain, depending on what your body size is or what your goals are. But 1 to 2 at the most servings per meal is going to make a dramatic difference. We have been teaching, and it's my absolute favorite. It's what I personally do, is the plate method. If you were to draw an 8-inch circle, that's about the size of your plate should be, and cut it in half. And then one of the halves is your protein. The other half is your carbohydrate. And then the other entire half is full of veggies and or fruit. Now, there's room again for the center or sprinkled on top of your plate, that 1 tablespoon serving size of fat, 1 to 2. Really is a very powerful tool to use. You don't have to track calories. You don't have to track. And when you're going out to eat, you can eyeball things. Now it's tricky because especially if you're not making it, that's the fat portion can be hidden and it's hard to see that depending on what the food is prepared in. So it's important to ask and know and understand how the food's being prepared, but you can eyeball and you can stay within your caloric needs by simply practicing portion control, which can be a very, very effective, simple, easy thing that we can do that can be a game changer in your goals and in your nutrition. So that last step, so portion control is with your hand. The last step is that balance plate. And it is really important. And this is one of the things that we guests get to experience while at the resort. It's extremely powerful. I can't tell you how many times I hear at the end of the week, holy cow, I cannot believe how full and satisfied I feel on 1,200 calories. And it's because we are doing the balance plate. So guests will be getting carbs, fats, protein, lots of veggies between the salad bar and then the veggies that are served and or fruit at each meal and feeling full and satisfied, which really is the secret to being successful when it comes to your nutrition, which is what we teach at the resort. That balance plate is powerful. And I'll tell you the also beauty behind it when you're having fats, carbs, proteins at every meal. The body is also feeling not only emotionally, mentally, but that physical hunger is satisfied by having that balance. Because if you have just carbohydrates, you don't have the fats and the proteins to keep you satiated till the next meal. You also aren't going to be having the deliverance of the vitamins into your cells. So extremely important to couple and not just even your snacks. I would aim to and have keeping the snacks, small, maybe 200-300 calories, but having a little bit of carbs, a little bit of protein, maybe even a little bit of fat if possible, with staying within your caloric needs. So those are 6 very simple tips for better nutrition we put into our email this week. And I want to just quickly end by going through the journal prompt, which I can't stress the importance and power of putting pen to paper and the value this can be of identifying these 6 things and writing them out and coming up with a plan. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll address more when it comes to nutrition. But I want you to the first part in our journal prompt is to identify areas you can make improvements. So this is extremely beneficial or extremely important to be individual and to also simplify, because if we try and change everything all at once, it's not going to be sustainable. So the important thing is to just make a list of areas that you can make improvements. It might be that in the evenings, we're consuming more unnecessary calories than is needed. Maybe we can plan, and if that, it's interesting and quite, I guess, ironic is the right word, how intermittent fasting has now made going without breakfast not only acceptable, but encouraged. And interestingly, if you're, as old as I am or a little bit older, we all remember how important, and every dietitian used to stress the importance of breakfast being that first meal of the day to keep us from overeating at night. So, it's an interesting thing. And I'm not saying, intermittent fasting's not okay, because there are people who have benefited from it and it has been a great way for them to reach their goals. So to each their own, but it's extremely important. Again, I just am emphasizing to identify where the weaknesses are, that we can make improvements, and maybe by intermittent fasting or going without breakfast, that's causing too many calories consumed in the evening. Maybe your blood sugars aren't regulated. There could be lots of things. Or, again, intermittent fasting can be something that might work for you. So identify areas that because, the one thing that not only the physiological benefits of intermittent fasting, but one of the simple things of intermittent fasting is it's eliminated an entire meal for people to go and cut out calories. So yeah, but that's if that individual is not prone to over consuming in the evenings. So they found that it's worked, and again, there's some physiological benefits as well. So really that this first step in your journal prompt is to just identify where improvements can be made. And you're the only person who's going to know those. You can speak and talk directly with a dietitian to go through your day. Maybe you're not completely aware of improvements that you could make. The second thing is to reflect on your typical daily meals. So keep a food journal. This is something that I think is very, very powerful. For 2, 3, 4 days, write down every single thing that you consume throughout the day. I always compare this to like going to Costco or Target and getting your receipt and thinking like, holy cow, they must have overcharged me because I didn't spend that much. And then you go through your receipt and you thought, oh, I did buy that. I did buy that. I did buy that. Oftentimes at the end of the day, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I haven't even eaten anything. And you forget like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that. I had that. I had that. So really reflecting on the typical day, I would maybe even a full week go throughout the weekend. One of the things that I've done several times that I actually personally love is taking a picture. I actually currently still do it, but I take a picture of anything I eat so that I can remember. And at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, this was my breakfast. This was my lunch. And I try to not eat it unless I'm going to take a picture of it, which is a very powerful exercise that you can try. So reflect on your typical daily meals. Are they balanced? I have 4 things. Write these down. They're kind of my guidelines for sticking with my own personal goals. I ask myself before I'm going to consume something, is it balanced? So are there fats, carbs, proteins in this meal or snack that I'm going to be consuming? Number 2, is it within my caloric budget? I know what my caloric needs are. And I know what, I can afford to consume. And I'll ask myself, is this within my budget? The third thing, which I actually should be, in my opinion, maybe number 1, but is it yummy? Is it going to taste good? Do I really even want it? Oftentimes we consume so mindlessly that it doesn't even taste good and we're just eating it out of habit. So I try to approach it like I would spend my money. I'm not going to just give my money away or throw my money away. I want to make sure that I'm getting the most bang for my buck, and I'm going to spend it on things that are going to taste good. I have been known, and I absolutely am not ashamed, and you may see me, I'll spit food out if it doesn't taste good, because I don't want to waste my calories on something that I'm not going to enjoy. So really become picky on what you're going to spend those calories on. The 4th thing, is it satisfying? Is it going to make you feel full and satisfied until your next meal? Because we can consume a lot of calories and still be hungry, and that's when we can get ourselves in a lot of trouble. So I like to use the hunger scale of 1 to 10. It's very simple. 10 is I'm so stuffed, I'm almost delirious. I'm like in a food coma. I'm sick, I'm tired, I don't feel good. I have to just sit and we've all been there before. That's a 10. And 1 is I'm so hangry, I can't function. I'm getting a headache and you don't want to be around me. And I try to personally be, when I'm done with a meal, throughout the day between a 4 and 7. So I try not to get less than a 4, and I try and say between a 7, maybe an 8, but no more than an 8. And listen to my body. Now, the tricky part with that is oftentimes we'll eat and not have the signal that's, satisfies in our brain that actually tells us that we're full and satisfied. So we'll eat past that point if we don't eat slow enough. So you want to be really careful. One of the things I've actually just done, and this can be something that may take time, because we get into the habit of just filling our plate and we eat it, but portion out your food. Like we talked about, the fist, the palm, the thumb, your endless veggies, and make an 8-inch plate, eat it. And sometimes we have to retrain our brain and our stomach to know what actually satisfied is. So that can take some time. And oftentimes in this process, you'll finish a meal and I'm like, normally I would go for seconds, thirds, maybe still a little bit hungry, but, walk away, let your body digest, take a drink. And if you're still hungry, then you can have something after 20 or 30 minutes. But 99.9% of the time, I was totally satisfied after doing so. So it takes a little bit of time to retrain the brain and the stomach to really know what satisfying is. But those are my four, guidelines. Is it balanced? Is it within my budget? Does it taste good? And is it going to keep me full and satisfied till my next meal? Those can be very, very helpful, but reflect on your typical daily meals, maybe even a week's worth. Okay, the third thing in your journal prompt is, how do you feel after certain foods? Are you energized or do you feel sluggish? And everyone's going to be different. So I can't tell you, what makes me feel good. I personally do not feel good unless I've had an adequate amount of carbohydrates. And, and if I have a ton of veggies, and I'm not having fats and I'm not having carbs, I'll have stomach pain. So for me, I can feel a big difference when my meals are balanced, and when I'm lacking one of the fats, carbs, or proteins. And, I personally don't have any one specific food. A lot of people, maybe when it comes to gluten or when it comes to wheat and when it comes to maybe some fruits, maybe, for me, honestly, I don't love a lot of animal proteins. I'm not against them. I just personally, and I actually don't feel bad after eating them. I don't know what it is. I don't love a ton of them. I eat animal proteins, but some people don't, and they feel better not. So I think it's extremely important to really know what your body feels good on. Dairy is a big one for a lot of people if they don't feel good, stomach issues. So notice, one of the things is we become so immune to those. If we're just over consuming, it's almost like we don't know. And so you have to kind of go to square one. The fourth thing in your journal prompt, and this is a big one, we could actually take an entire podcast and talk about how your emotions influence your eating behaviors. This is one I try to think about a lot. I like to ask myself, where am I on that scale? Am I even hungry? Or I always laugh because I think about the movie my husband and my kids quote all of the time from The Grinch. Am I bored? Is that why I'm eating? Am I stressed? And sometimes we eat because we're celebrating. And that one I know is actually, certainly I've noticed, we get excited, there's certain events and we have these rituals that, we are eating and we're not actually even hungry. So, that's a tricky one because what? Do you want to cut that out completely? I know I don't, but I do want to be able to do it in a way that's going to help me still reach my goals and help me feel good, because I also don't like the opposite of eating out of, and not feeling good after. So you've got to find the right balance of those. But even just recognizing, I've noticed, when I am bored or, tired or stressed, oftentimes we go and we try and satisfy those basic needs with food, when in reality, we need to satisfy those basic needs with things that are actually going to satisfy those basic needs. If we're tired, maybe sleep. If we're stressed, learning how to cope better or other ways to handle stress or alleviate some of that stress and, talk with somebody about some of that stress rather than turning to food. And so really dealing with the actual emotion that needs to be addressed. We already talked about, but in your journal prompt, it has you reflect on portion sizes. Are you one that overeats at different meals or undereats, and how does that affect your energy? So again, this can be a really powerful, beneficial exercise to actually for the next week, go over these things. The last thing in your journal prompt is, how does your current eating habits align with your goals? Now, and again, I think maybe the automatic answer is maybe, if depending on how far off they are, it might be a hard no, like I'm way off. So using this opportunity to say, okay, what changes? what changes can we make that will support your health journey, whether it's weight loss, fitness, or just improving and getting rid of some chronic diseases. So this week and I think the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be focusing on nutrition, talking a lot about how it can affect our goals and the importance of nutrition. And I don't know. I feel very, very strongly. It doesn't matter. I could sit here and be the most educated person on nutrition and tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Like eat this. And there's a million people out there that will want to do that. And, a lot of the information is good to learn and find out. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, because it absolutely does matter. What the difference is your intention. So are you learning because you want to change, or are you learning grudgingly and don't want to change? And it's like when we have a will, there's a way. And it is absolutely true. If we truly want a certain outcome, then we need to be willing to look at what we're currently doing and ask ourselves, what are we willing to change? And, it might be a matter of readdressing our goals. Maybe those goals really aren't that important to us. Maybe we really don't need to lose that much weight, because I promise you, by making some small changes, you will be shocked at how great those results can be over time. I've probably said this already in these previous chapters. And if not, you'll probably hear me talk a lot about this, but I don't know that we realize the difference that a very small change can make. I'm talking just 200 calories a day. I heard this over 25 years ago, and I'm still shocked by it. And I don't think that we really fully understand this, but just 200 more calories than our body needs a day is going to result in 20 pounds a year. It's crazy. I have people come up to me all the time and say, I really don't eat that much food. And my response is, unfortunately, we don't have to eat that much food to just gain 20 pounds in a year. Like, that's a granola bar. Some granola bars are 300 calories, but just 200 extra calories a day. Again, and so we shouldn't feel bad. It's very easy to put on 20 pounds. On the flip side, if we just cut, now we have to know what our baseline is and what our caloric needs are. But if we just cut, you don't have to feel starving. You don't have to make these major crazy changes. You can continue eating the foods that you love and enjoy by cutting back. We hear it all the time. I just eliminated one thing. A lot of times it can be alcohol. By eliminating, it's crazy the difference that it can happen. It can be, soda that's full of calories, eliminating, maybe 2 or 3 of those a day, or it just can be massive. It can be really, if you just go throughout your day, don't even try changing anything. Just write what you're eating and see what are you willing to cut out that you won't even notice? It's crazy. I promise you. Then the secret is to be patient, because by eliminating 200 calories from your body's baseline, it's going to be a little less than a pound, maybe about a half a pound a week. So it's 1,400 calories. There's 3,500 calories in a pound. So you won't see dramatic results fast, but 20 pounds in a year, I promise any one of us, wanting to lose weight would be happy this time next year. How fast does a year go by with 20 pounds less? So I get really passionate about it because the nutrition really is a big piece to the puzzle. It's challenging. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about meal planning. We're going to talk about things that we can do that can help the nutrition not be as overwhelming. But I feel like simplifying it is the best thing we can do, as opposed to feeling like we have to be gourmet chefs or we have to be so specific on specific things that we're eating at specific times and making it so overly complicated. Don't even change a thing. I'm not a fan of telling anybody what they should or shouldn't eat. I really feel strongly that you need to decide that. It's important for you to understand what your basic needs are. Now, having said that, over time, you'll start to be like, now I wonder what I can change. So you start by making a very small, little, you won't even notice the change. You get really good at that. And then you can maybe change another small thing that you don't even notice. You get really good at that. And then we can start to be like, maybe I can eat more of this food or this food. And then you'll get more in tune with what your body actually needs. Right now, I think it's almost impossible for any of us to really know specific minerals, specific vitamins until we fine tune our diets and how we eat. We're not going to know very, very specifically and even know how our body is affected by those things until we get it to a baseline. It's exciting though, and it doesn't need to be overwhelming, and it doesn't need to. I feel like sometimes it can be very depressing when we think of like, oh, I can't eat all of the foods that I love, and that's absolutely not true. Now, here's the difference. You will get to the point where you will probably not want them and you won't feel bad about it. You'll be able to be like, hey, yeah, it's right there. Don't really need it. Don't really want it, and move on and not fret about it, not think about it, not overconsume it. So much of what we do is because of habit and definitely marketing. We're marketed to like crazy. And we're also very, very overwhelmed with lots of information. It's that information overload that can really paralyze us. So we want to try and eliminate that, simplify it, and really focus on these small things that we can do when it comes to our nutrition. There's a lot I covered on tonight. And again, I'm excited to go over these next several weeks on nutrition and get us really feeling to the point where we feel empowered. We feel excited, and we get to approach this now of like, hey, I have a choice. I get to decide what I want. It's not about what I can't have or what I shouldn't have or what I should be eating. It now becomes what I want, how I want to feel, how it affects me, and ultimately having that align with my ultimate goals. So hopefully you're excited, and I hope this helped. I challenge you to take the time in the journal prompt, and I'm going to every week challenge you to share your success with others, share what you're doing. You can use the hashtag your 2024 story, or again, just share it with somebody, a close loved one or friend, family members. And I hope you join us for chapter 10. We'll continue with our nutrition. Thanks, you guys.